What's going on, everybody? It's the Hook Cam back again with another film breakdown, and today's going to be a little bit different than what we usually do in terms of looking at a specific team or player. Today we're going to be just checking out the really basic differences between a 4-3 and a 3-4 defense. Just as a disclaimer, I am by no means a football genius. This is just the limited knowledge that I know and me giving that to you guys to check out, put your opinions in, whatever. But just kind of, throwing a video out there. There's not a ton to talk about right now, which is really tough to go and try and make. I don't want to go and try and stir up anything. I'm not just going to try and make a video to make a video. So this is something that I have been wanting to do and have been wanting to dive a little bit into. So I thought, why not try it right now? And, like I said, just kind of throwing stuff at a wall, seeing what sticks and going from there. So before I dive too far into this video, if you could hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to my channel, The Hook Cam, that would mean the world, as well as to Jackson Kruger Sports. I work closely with him. Phenomenal human being and somebody that I'm happy I know and happy I get to work with. So kind of the inspiration for this video, diving into this, is I remember a while back I was watching this football YouTuber and he had made a video on 3-4 versus 4-3 and which one's better. To be honest, I don't even remember which one he said was better, but I just thought that question was ridiculous because, as a defensive coordinator in the NFL, you have to imagine that, yes, they do come from a coaching tree. Yes, they do have the defense that they prefer to run and will run. But which one's better and which one's worse is just an irrelevant question, in my opinion, because you have a defense and you build a defense around the talent that you have. Or you're a coach and I'm a 4-3 guy, I come from a 4-3 coaching tree, and you find the players to fill that role. With that being said, though, you look at a player like Jadeveon Clowney here for the Seahawks, who has traditionally been in Houston like that 3-4 stand-up edge guy. But he comes to Seattle, he's a hand in the dirt, he's that weak side defensive end, and that's something that Pete Carroll is kind of famous for in terms of defensively, is having that weak side defensive end be really the most athletic and alpha athlete on that team. So I just thought that question was ridiculous, and that's something that I'll kind of address later in the video. But just really quickly, with this first clip, I do want to say it is out of empty for the Steelers, which is going to force a defense into an empty check. Really, I like this image because it's kind of like a base for everything. And it's just more spread out and kind of easier to talk through. So with this empty check for Seattle, they're going to have their corner obviously drop deep third, safety drop deep third, and then this other corner drop into their deep third. They have this other safety rolled up. Pretty standard for cover 3 teams to roll one safety down and have the other one back. Of course, sometimes you'll see safeties who roll into cover 3 with 2 high. Very, very standard, especially in the NFL. And then, of course, underneath with our linebackers, we're going to work hook curl, middle of the field, and then a hook curl here. The weaknesses with the cover 3 is obviously the flats, which is what Big Ben hits here, and then you just rally to anything underneath. But just kind of like the very basic alignment for that 4-3 against that empty. And again, with the Seahawks, what's special about them is how athletic their linebackers are. Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, and then Michael Kendricks are 3 phenomenal athletes at the linebacker position, which is, kind of a growing trend in the NFL. That's kind of a different video that I want to make. But anyway, phenomenal athletes, which is why they're able to line up against empty in a base package, which is pretty crazy to do. But again, we're going to see apex right here. It looks to be between the tight end and the receiver with KJ Wright. Bobby Wagner is going to be lined up on the hash, basically head up on the tackle, or it looks like to be in that B gap, and then inside shade of the receiver with Michael Kendricks here. And it's just really standard alignment for your 4-3, just that empty check. Again, just kind of showing you a very spread out basic picture of what that 4-3 cover 3 looks like. Now, something else that defenses will do, especially when offenses give them heavier personnels and heavier formations, is they'll go into a 5 or 6 man over or under. In this situation with Seattle, we have a 13 personnel, or what would be 13 personnel from the Steelers. We can see right here with this third tight end, it's actually an offensive lineman, and then we have our other 2 tight ends here. And with this clip, I really wanted to show you guys really what the trenches look like in a 4-3. This is what would be, I would call it a 6-man over, obviously because we have 6 guys on the line of scrimmage. You have your 3 tech to the strength of the formation. That's what tells you it's an over front, right? You have your 4 defensive linemen. You have your 3 tech to the strength of the formation, right, which is the 3 tight end side. That would tell me it's an over. Right after that, you go to your 1 tech on the weak side right here, and then of course you have your defensive end. Usually he's lined up in like a 5 technique outside shade of the tackle. In this situation, though, since it's heavier personnel and something that a lot of teams will do, is they'll just bump their weak side backer down here, which is exactly what Michael Kendricks does. Since he's responsible for that outside gap out here, we can bump Jadeveon Clowney down into that 4-eye. Now, the one thing that I will say about a 4-3 is that it's a very gap. But all defenses are gap sound. It's not like a 4-3 is more gap sound than a 3-4. Just, I feel like it's a little bit more clear what gaps players are going to be in a 4-3, right? Very, very obvious that this defensive end is going to be responsible for this C gap, this 3-tech responsible for this B gap right here. Now, this A gap is going to be Bobby Wagner's responsibility. That backside A gap is for this 1-tech, and then, of course, Jadeveon Clowney working into this B gap. The C gap, anything outside is going to be for Michael Kendricks. Just kind of showing you guys, 6-man under, 6-man over in this situation for what the Seahawks would do and what some 4-3 teams will do to a heavier personnel. Even in like a 12 personnel, you can see like when the Titans and Chiefs played in that AFC Championship game, the Chiefs went into their 5-man over under a lot to counter that 12 personnel look. Brings more guys up on the line of scrimmage, helps you be a little bit more gap sound, gets your gaps a little bit quicker. Now, with this situation here, really the reason why I'm showing this clip is because it's a pressure look for the Seahawks. We're going to have Bobby Wagner and Michael Kendricks coming on this play. In fact, let's bring it back to the start here. Something unique about this is that the Steelers are giving the Seahawks a dead side, and all the dead side is when that's what I called it, my lingo, from where I've coached from. And all the dead side is when you have a tight end here, no receiver, really kind of puts this corner in a pickle, and all the Seahawks do to this is they go with their cover 3, really standard. Now, every part of a defense is connected, and that's something that I think is important when going through this video. When you bring pressure like this, you have to shore everything up, and this is what I would call a fire zone, right? We're bringing heat with Michael Kendricks here. Bobby Wagner's working in here. They have this defensive end cheated down a little bit. That's probably a tip for this offensive line and for Big Ben to kind of look at and say, hey, something's coming from this side. And then what you're going to run defensively behind is a lot of times it's cover 3, right? So we're going to drop this corner off, work into this deep third here, work into this deep third right here. Obviously bringing heat with these two. KJ Wright in the middle, he's going to work to wall off the number 3 receiver, which ends up being the number 2 to start. And then we're going to man up, basically. I think that would be his rule with whatever that last receiver would be. Very, very simple. Just a couple of different wrinkles we would see with the 4-3. Now moving on to the Steelers and their 3-4, and some kind of part of the reason why I picked this game to start with this video is because when I was watching it, really interesting to see the Seattle 4-3 and then the Pittsburgh 3-4 and how those two defenses obviously operate differently, but they accomplish the same goals. Now with this first clip, I like it because it shows a pretty much based up look for a 3-4, right? And you kind of start talking about the different athletes that you want in certain positions in this 3-4, and of course Pittsburgh's got Bud Dupree playing at this edge spot as well as TJ Watt. We have this cat in the box here. It's for a safety, I would imagine. It's because of this tight end, or because first down. I would think this is a first down. Maybe the Seahawks were run heavy on first down, so they bring a safety down, but again, looks like they're just going to end up running man behind it, just straight up cover 1. Now, one thing that I do want to point out when we get to the end zone view of this thing is how a 3-4 would line up, and obviously there's a variation of ways that a 3-4 is going to line up, and the reason why I picked this clip specifically is because they start off in a tilt here with their nose tackle. If I was breaking this down and we were talking about it in a staff meeting, I would probably wonder if we want to treat that as a 1-tech. I would imagine so, and you could almost call this an underfront, right? With your 1-tech, your 3-tech on the back side. In a way, it's kind of a 5-man under, which is kind of why everything's connected. And when you sit there and go, which one's better, I think it's a ridiculous question because they basically accomplish the same thing. Okay, but now when we go back to where this formation is, everything's balanced up here. We have our nose tackle lined up in a 0 technique. Our defensive end here, Cameron Hayward's in a 4-eye. And then, of course, we're head up in a 5-tech. Well, that's kind of a 4-eye, I would say, in this backside. And, what's interesting about the 3-4 is you've kind of seen an evolution over the last couple of years of a 3-4 going from your defensive ends lined up in a straight-up 5 technique, which is head up on the tackle or outside shade of that, to now into a 4-eye. And the whole reason for that is because it's way tougher to pull guards against a 4-eye. Because a lot of times with this 4-eye, these 4-eyes are taught to play hands inside on this tackle, eyes inside to this gap, and as soon as you pull this guard, well, now we're going to flood inside here and we get some pressure from the backside. But again, just something really simple to show you guys on this clip. And again, as far as gaps go, right, we're working in here. A lot of times 3-4s will 2-gap, which is another kind of wrinkle to it. Again, athletic, it's like you'd say, oh, well, they want athletic backers, and it's like, well, yeah, you want athletes on a football field. So I think that's kind of ridiculous to say. However, it is very relevant in the case of the Seattle Seahawks because of just straight up how athletic their backers are. Now, checking out this look from Seattle, and again, part of the reason why I put this clip in there is because we do see a dead side from Seattle as well as we saw from Pittsburgh in the drive before this, and just kind of the way defense is treated. Now, what I think is interesting is that Pittsburgh is actually also bringing pressure on this play, so you kind of get to see something that's pretty standard between the two defenses, right? Is behind your fire zone that you're going to bring, you're going to drop into 3, and that's just something that's really, really standard to defenses in general, and a lot of times it's tough to pick up, and obviously you can mess around with that so much by giving that look of, oh, we're going to bring pressure and then dropping off. Now with this situation here, you can tell that Russell Wilson sees that pressure and checks to something with that alert right there that he's doing with his hands. 56 coming down right there. He made it, obviously, that quick check, looking for his hot route, but his hot's not looking. Obviously some miscommunication there, and then a sack on that. But again, just showing you what that 4-3 pressure looked like, and then now with that 3-4. They do kind of accomplish the same thing. We start talking about the differences between like personnel and, okay, our edge defenders in a 3-4 in what I would call outside linebackers. You have your I would call this the boundary outside linebacker and this the field outside linebacker. People call him differently. They call him the Sam and him the Will. How I've always called the defense, and it's just because of where I coached at, is I called him the field, him the Mike, him the Will, and him the boundary, right? So in this situation, we'd be getting pressure from the field. Obviously, they're rolling this safety behind it. Safety can always kind of tell you where the pressure's coming from. He's going to work into deep third, and then with that other corner, they're working a deep third, and then I believe that they're going to spike this defensive end in. Yep, very standard blitz here that we'll see from the Steelers, bringing pressure from here and from here. You end up getting a 2-on-1, really it's standard blitz out of a 3-4. Kind of diving in now to the question of, what's better, and again, I just think that it's almost ignorant to go and say one's better than the other, because it's all about talent. It's all about athletes. Where is your talent lie defensively? And we look at Wade Phillips, who I think is a phenomenal example for this exact topic, because we look at Wade Phillips back in Super Bowl 50, and I think this was 2015 with the Denver Broncos, and primarily that was a 3-4 defense, right? You have Von Miller down at the bottom. You have DeMarcus Ware. You have Derek Wolfe, Sylvester Williams, Malik Jackson. You have just insane front seven. You look at the talent of this defense, and I think that you just use it to your best advantage when you have a guy like DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller coming after the quarterback, trying to get into run fits almost every play. And then what's interesting about this defense is that you have the abilities of Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, and then behind that you can pretty much just lock up and run 3 or man almost all day, which is exactly what they're doing right here. They drop into a cover 3 look. But again, with this 3-4, we look at what Wade Phillips did with Denver, and this was one of the best defenses in NFL history. So I think when we sit there and we try and embrace that debate of which one's better, I just think it's almost irrelevant. And again, the 3-4 that Denver ran, and then I'm going to tie this into looking at the Wade Phillips defense from Super Bowl 53 with the Rams. And again, we talk about that personnel. Where's your talent lie? Well, the talent here with Wade Phillips was with Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh. Let's base everything off of that. And then, of course, you have a corner like Marcus Peters you can work off of. But again, the basis of this defense, and with Wade Phillips especially, and why I think that argument's just kind of ridiculous, is that you have to play to the talents that you have. If you're going to be narrow-minded and say, no, I'm a 3-4 guy, 3-4 till I die, stuff like that, then you're going to end up running into a situation, and you probably won't have the longest career in the NFL unless you can just continuously draft great talent, which is possible, don't get me wrong. But part of the reason why I think a guy like Wade Phillips is so good as a defensive coordinator is because he's been able to adapt. He's been able to go through and, run a 3-4, run a 4-3, mix up the coverages, and be successful with that. So anyway, guys, that's all I got for this video today. Not sure how this is going to be received. Just kind of throwing some stuff at a wall, like I said, seeing what sticks. Not a whole lot going on right now. If you did enjoy this video, if you could hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, that would mean the world to me, as well as to Jackson Kruger Sports. That would mean the world to both of us. So we really appreciate all the support we're getting, especially from me. Obviously, just hit 3,000 subscribers. That just means the world. Just blows my mind. I love you guys, man. I love the fact that you guys are watching my videos, leaving supportive comments every once in a while. We'll get the mean guy who wants to be the I told you so guy. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button. That's all I got for you guys today. Stay safe, and I will see you next time.